Hello, let me introduce Lipowise. Lipowise is a skinfold caliper that connects via Bluetooth with the app. Here I have a list of clients. I can choose the client and manage all my clients. I will choose this profile of measurements where I have to put the height, the weight. These values are needed to compute the body fat percentage. Then go next, choose my Lipowise, and then I can measure, in this case, only the triceps. So I measure one time, then I will measure a second time. To measure, when I open, I trigger the device, and then when I release, it starts the measurement. So I measure two times. I can see here a graphic, a plot with the tissue compressibility, the error between measurements, and the average value. Then I submit and I get the results of the body fat percentage.
Hi, my name is Ricardo Moura. I'm the CEO of Gripwise and Wisify, both technologies that are used to make the assessment of muscle strength and body composition, to make the assessment of frailty and sarcopenia of the elderly, but that applies to other conditions also. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right, so I made Ricardo do it 2 times because before he was just talking, and I'm like, oh no, I need it to be perfect so that way everyone can understand what it is at the beginning. But I know that we're going to be talking about it a lot more. And full disclosure, I know Ricardo because I met Ricardo in Portugal. We met in Portugal first?
Or no, we met in Boston.
In Boston first. So we met here in Massachusetts first, and then I met him in Portugal, which was amazing because I got to see him a few times. And I've always just been so impressed with what you're doing. But before we even talk about the product and what you're doing and why you're doing it, I always say, in order to understand the business, we need to understand the person. And so we already know that you're in Portugal because we just said that. But let's just start from when you were younger, your family, all the way to your college years, your university years. And if you say something, I may stop you, just ask because I want details. But let's just walk through from when you're younger, your family, what your family setting, all the way to university.
Okay. Well, that brings some memories, I think. Well, I was born in a small town called Guarda. It's really in the middle of Portugal, near the border with Spain. So we lived 40 kilometers from Spain. And when I was young, really young, and we saw television, most of it, as a kid, I was always seeing the Spanish broadcast because they usually have better programs than ours when we are looking for the other things that are really interesting. But afterwards, at that time, we only had 2 channels in Portugal. They had 4 or 5 in Spain, so it was really interesting. And well, I was really a kid that was a small town in Guarda. It only has 40,000 citizens, so it's not so big. And we were in the middle of Portugal. Well, I have my mother was a professor. She was a teacher of history and Portuguese, and my father was a businessman from the insurance from an insurance company. I have a sister 4 years younger, and well, the thing about I really am amazed about my first years because it was really nice. We had best friends everywhere. It was really, really interesting. However, it's the coldest city in Portugal, you know. So that's why maybe one of the reasons why the city itself it's getting less and less people over there, and that's one of the reasons why I had to left also, because even in Portugal, being a small country in which you have 200 kilometers from one side to the other, this is too much. They consider that the deep Portugal, you know, where no one can reach. But there is a lot of things.
So see, I'm already going to stop you because I'm already intrigued. So you were so close to Spain. Did you guys spend time in Spain a lot? I mean, because if you were so close to it, did you? I mean, how much time did you spend in Spain knowing that you were so close to it?
Well, I'm talking about beginning of 80s. Mm-hmm. You know, so at that time we weren't even in European community. So both Portugal and Spain, we went to the European community in '86, in January of '86. So it was at that time I remember to go weekly there to buy chocolates and some drops of caramel that are always the things that in my thoughts as a young boy. And usually you had to cross the border, all of those things that usually you need to follow now only when you go from to another country.
Yeah.
At that time, they even had to search for you if you were bringing some kind of products, different products than the ones you have here. It's not so usual. And it was really an interesting time because it was all completely different. After that,
did you speak Spanish? Well, did you speak Spanish? Because if you're crossing over the border, did your family also speak Spanish as well as Portuguese?
No, that's not the term, because I understand perfectly Spanish, but if you don't train it every day, you are not going to have the vocabulary. You know, it's quite different. The languages are very different, but I truly understand everything they say, and it's easy. The problem is to speak it. When I can always make myself clear as in English. You know, I can. People can understand it, but I'm not native. I speak worse Spanish, you know, than I speak English. So but I understand them quite well. And but for example, if you look in terms of generation, my father and my mother, they didn't have the broadcast of TV. So they didn't hear it so well, and even being 40 kilometers from the border, you know. And at that time, when I'm talking even before, Portugal had a dictator, as is in Spain also, they had it also. And at that time, it was all very closed, and Portugal was really a poor country. And they travel a lot. There were a lot of immigrants. Some of them went to Boston, curiously.
Well, I was going to say, I think this is one of the things where I loved about my relationship with so many of the Portuguese startups, and the small businesses, because we have Azorians, Cape Verdean, and Portuguese, huge population in Massachusetts. Not even just Boston, just the state. So I know that when you guys come, you will see your people here. It's highly represented in regards of the community from linked to Portugal, very, very highly populated in Massachusetts, which I love. I grew up with so many Cape Verdean kids. I grew up with so many Azorian kids. So love it. Okay, so sorry. That was me interrupting, but I was just like, I'm so excited because the relationship that our countries, our locations have is just so loved.
Yeah. And well, that was what was happening at that time. So Portugal was really poor, and many people go away to other countries. US, not so much, but for example, France, Germany, many to France. And well, that changed a lot the way the country grown by itself. Since 1986, when we went to the European community, everything changed. And now I truly think that we have a great evolution in terms of knowledge. Our universities are really great. I'm related to one of the best universities in Portugal, and really one of the best. I'm saying it, but it's really one of the best ones. And we have a lot of knowledge and good connections.
Well, out of curiosity, your father was in insurance, your mother was a professor. Was it because they were both so inside the community that they didn't leave, or did they make a decision where like we want to leave? I mean, so I want to understand. What was the even not just for staying in the community, but staying in Portugal per se? Portugal wasn't very rich. A lot of resources weren't going to Portugal. Your mother's an educator, so of course, like education is huge. So they could have left. So what was the decision in regards of your livelihood, your education, you staying where you were?
Well, the thing is, at that time, Guarda was one of, it's a small city, but was one good city in terms of, it's the capital of the district, you know? And my father and my mother, to tell you the story, my father is the first in 6, and he was the only one that stayed here because my grandparents left to France with all the five other brothers of my parents. My mother was the third sister of 3, was the youngest, and was the only one that could make studies to be a teacher afterwards. Both of the other, one of them went out to France also. The other one stayed here, but at the village, you know, working in agriculture and all of that. So it was strange, but my parents were the ones that stayed. And in the 80s, when Portugal went to the European Union, there was a boost in growth. So they were here in the right time. And Guarda at that time also felt a lot of growth. And well, it was really nice until the middle 90s when I went to the university. I went to the university in the beginning of the 90s, 1992. And at that time, it was Portugal was having a good evolution. So I went to college, I studied management. And well, what happens is that Portugal evolved a lot in terms of university. Now you have most of the population has at least high school, and afterwards they go to the degrees. And now you are seeing that the Portuguese also still they stopped to immigrate at that time in the 90s or 80s, but in the middle 2010, when came 2008, when came the crisis, most of the Portuguese that went out were the instructed ones. So we are facing now the same evolution that was at that time, and the crisis was really tough in the city where I was. I grew up in Guarda. I went to college in another town in the same area, most of it. But when I finished studies, I went to other cities, and I just came back 9 years after I left, when I went to the university and began my own business as having an accountant office. And what I saw was that.
Wait, 1 second. So you went to university. You were close to home. You weren't in your town, but you were close. So when you graduated, what did you go to university for, by the way?
Management.
Okay, so business management. And so you leave the town, you go to school, you get a business management. Is it because your dad was in business? Because you could have gone the route of being an educator like your mother.
Yeah, that's from the side of my mother. Almost everyone went to teach. My sister is a teacher, for example. But I don't know. To be honest with you, I think I have the genes from my grandmother. She was amazing. She was an entrepreneur and she was really something. As an entrepreneur, it's something that it's inside of me. I cannot explain. It's really, I'm always trying to create something. And
when you were younger, wait, when you were, don't move away. So you're moving too quickly away from this. So what did your grandmother do?
She was at agriculture. She was really, she was a tough woman. She at 14, she got orphaned. She was the oldest. She took care of the little sister with less 1 year, and both of them, there were six brothers in total, and one of them was 6 years old, and he was put into another family. And when she saw that he was not well treated, he went there and took his brother, and the three of them make their own life from scratch. Now I have the house that I met when I was a young guy, and where I lived a lot when there was the holidays in the summer. I was there for a long time, and she raised me in that sense, trying to go to the fields, see how grow things, and how to manage to think. You do this, to do that, to build something in the end. And I think I have some of that because of the experiences I had, and really, it's something that when you grow something, when you have almost nothing, you almost see there just some rocks and some fields that are so small that you cannot even think that someone can eat from that. And in the end, they ate, they even had some animals. Everyone lived, and even my mother could be a teacher in the end. It's really amazing when you see this. And
so out of curiosity, so is this your mother's mother or your father's mother?
My mother's mother.
Your mother's mother, which is very interesting because your mother your mother's mother, your grandmother, tough.
Yeah.
Your mother went to be an educator. And so she definitely didn't want to be an entrepreneur, because she probably saw her mother working so hard. But then your dad is in the business. So your mom understands the business, like insurance, the business world. So it's very interesting how your sister goes one side, you go one side, but then it's still embedded in your family, which is really, really interesting for me, because this is why I ask people about your background, because I'm just trying to connect the dots to understand where you came from. So now you go to university, you're in for business. What are the jobs that you had before you started your business?
Okay. Well, it was really interesting because I finished the university, and my first job was to work for a big supermarket with 8,000 square meters. It was really huge. I was selected from 600 and something guys trying to have this kind of job, and we were managers of a special part of I was with TVs, electronics, and we were selected, and we negotiated with providers. We negotiated big campaigns in the whole country, and it was a really interesting experience. So it's a big company. In the end, there were 400 employees inside of that supermarket. But in the end, I was also teaching others. I was one of the trainers for the employees of the store. Everything. We had a lot of responsibilities, and that made me understand what is needed to create some business and the focus afterwards in terms of sales and all of that. After that, I went there for 1 year, and I was invited to another field completely different, for the accounting and the human resources area, in which I was invited to be the CFO of a group of companies. One of them was holding, but we had 6 companies, one of them in Brazil, another one in Angola, and 3 of them here in Portugal. And it was amazing, a kid with 20 and something years and having this experience was really amazing. And at that time, I was living in the, not at that time, so I closed I finished my graduation, and afterwards I went to Aveiro, which is in the other side of the Portugal, so near the sea, and it's more evolved. It's a really much more evolved place. And afterwards I was invited to go a little bit to the center of Portugal again, but it's not my hometown, so it was completely different. And I was the CFO over there and the human resources also. And at that time I decided to invest in a franchising in terms of accounting, where my actual wife, she was unemployed, and I decided, oh, this is my field, so we can make a franchise. We are going to develop a franchise of a company that came from France, and I invested.
But wait a second. I feel like it goes. So you went to university for business, but were you focused on finance? Because you did HR, you did human resources, you did finance. You jumped, but you didn't go to school for that. So how did you find a way
management? Business management in Portugal goes to the accounting areas, human resources. It's a 5 years degree. It's not. So we had a lot of experience in other areas. So I began with the commercial and management parts of store. Afterwards, I went to the accounting and fiscal, all that taxes and all of that, and that's when this opportunity came to invest in a franchise that could be interesting. So my wife, she was not at that time. We were only I don't remember the name.
Boyfriend, girlfriend, friends.
Yeah, my girlfriend at that time. So she was unemployed, and she was not from Guarda, my hometown. And so, because this is a small hometown, this is a small town, so I decided, oh, I know a lot of people over there, so we can try to make this. She was also from management, so we can try to create this company there, and you are going to have some help from my father that knew a lot of people also, and we are going to try to bring some clients and all of that. So we invested. So 2 years and something after I was at that as a CFO of those companies.
Wait, pause. So are you? I think what's confusing me a little bit is, like, in the States, if you go to university, you get a degree in finance. So you're in finance, or you're in operations, or you're HR. So like there are 3 different entities. So in Portugal, the business degree is all of them. Is that what you're trying to say to me?
That one can relate to all of them.
Okay, good. Okay, that's why when you were saying all these different jobs, I'm like, I'm confused. But because I was confused because here it's 3 different separate. They're separate. So if you're going to be a COO, you're COO, a CFO, and then you have HR. So that's why there's like 3 different entities. So so now you go into this franchise. So this franchise from France, does your wife already work? Well, your girlfriend at the time. Did you guys just go in and you were working in it, and then you decided to franchise it, or did you find out about it first and then you decided to bring it in?
No, it already existed in Portugal. So what happened was that I saw it. It was on my field of work, so it was something that I could also provide some help. And she was already working in accounting, so it wasn't a franchising in the accounting area. So we decided to create that company, but it was not working well. So the thing is, I invested, I asked for funding to the bank, and we began the business and all of that. So she was there, and we had another employee, and no clients, nothing. It wasn't working.
What do you think that you did at the time? Like, I mean, so wait, what year was this?
2001.
Okay, 2001. What do you think at the time that you did wrong, knowing what you know now, that could have, that had no clients coming in, and what could you have done to get clients coming in?
What I did was just go there and try to do it. I had I talked with my employers and said, well, this is not going well with the business.
What do you, the question was, what do you believe you did wrong for people not to engage with you?
I wasn't there. That's the big issue.
You weren't there at all?
No, because I was 100 miles from the place.
Gotcha.
I just invested in that because I thought, well, I know a lot of people in my hometown, and this can be interesting. My father will also help because he knows a lot of people, and it wasn't working.
Gotcha.
So I decided, because I invested in that, I have a loan from the bank, and I needed to pay the wages, all of that, and I was getting completely destroyed by that. So I decided, no, I'm not going down with this. I'm going to say to the employees over there, I'm going to say to my bosses here that I'm going out and I'm going to take care of my own business. And that's what I did. So I fired myself and I went to my own business. And well, since then, the things began to work better. And 1 year and something afterwards, I was looking for buying a new space to be and growing the company. And it all went well at those years. In the beginning of 2000, it was a mess at the beginning. So we were under the line in terms of sales and all of that. We didn't have the clients, but in some months I could manage to have some clients, and all of that gradually grow. And sometime later, I have some employees. I was in other areas, like in consultancy and other areas that were appearing. And
did the clients that you had, once the company started evolving and it was getting better, did your clients find value in what you were doing for them?
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. And did that equate to the word of mouth, where people would tell people how good? All right, good, because as some audio people that are going to be listening will see your head, but yeah. So it worked out. It was a word of mouth. You knew what you were doing. You knew your target audience, so everything was going extremely well.
Yes, at that time it was the way. We were almost like, accounting is always boring, I think, even for me.
I said this literally hours ago. I was saying to someone where I love marketing. Marketing is what I love. I breathe. I eat. I love it. And I'm like, I don't love numbers. I mean, I appreciate numbers. I see the importance of numbers. But I always wonder, does someone that does numbers and finance and accounting and CP, I wonder if they love it as much as I love marketing.
No, what I love is consultancy, trying to help people to figure out things. How do they manage their businesses and all of that? It's not the same. I'm not the accountant, I'm the strategy guy. And that was maybe one of the differences that I had, and that's why the business grew well in those years.
Yeah.
But So afterwards, just in the beginning, when things were getting better, I married my wife, my actual wife, and the business was developing. So we had a small office, we had our own employees, and everything was going smoothly until 2008. 2008.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, I think everyone remembers that. And that was a big issue, mainly in the city I was. So it was really one of the reasons why after it was an impact. So you have 2008, and the first years after that, they really created a huge impact in the ecosystem, and it was a mess. And I think it's not going to be easy to get out of that after the impact that was experienced over there. And well, I was more or less working and seeing that I was from my friends group, I was the last guy over there. The other ones had already left. Some of them to foreign countries, others to other cities around Portugal. And so I had kids at that time. So my first kid was born in 2006. My little daughter, she was born in 2010. And I was very at that time I had another company in the renewable energy also. And I was looking at the landscape over there, and I wasn't liking what I saw, because obviously I had the accountants from my clients. I was seeing a full landscape that was not available to everyone, and I said, well, this is not going to be the place where I'm going to raise my kids. And it's difficult because at that time I was 38, more or less. And I thought, well, this is not going to be a good future for my kids, and I'm not going to see them grow and having their own lives. So I decided to sell my business over there and begin elsewhere.
Okay, so there's so many things. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I want to start with the questions here. So first of all, 2008. So 2008. 2007.
I'm telling you the impacts. I'm telling you about 2013, 2014. That's
no, but wait.
So
We're gonna go backwards. So 2007 to 2009, I was sitting in my MBA class, and I remember asking the professors, "What is happening?" And the professors were like, "We don't know, because we've never seen this before." And we're seeing a lot of countries were like, no one knew what was going on, but everyone was starting to hurt. So in your small community, how did it affect not only you, but how did it affect the community around you, all the different businesses at the time, if you remember?
Well, what I was seeing is that the businesses, they didn't have liquidity, no one could pay to others, and that was one of the biggest problems. Everyone was needing some employees, for example, but they were paying the minimum possible. So 80 to 90% of my clients, every time they were having a new employee, everyone was going on the minimum wage. And I was saying, this is not going anywhere like this. They didn't differentiate it. You were losing big companies that were there, settled there. They closed. So there was a space in between when you saw that there was some support from the employment centers and all of that. But when all that closed, it was really a heavy burden to see to flourish from that. So it was not possible to see an evolution, and time by time you saw people going out. And another thing was, for example, I was at that time I was needed to make a study in which I saw, for example, that from 2008 to 2012,
Mhm.
the decrease of students in primary school and to high school, that part,
Yep.
in 4 years, they lost 26% of the students, 26%. So if you don't have,
because people were moving away.
yeah, that's the big
Okay.
issue.
Yeah.
So the problem is that, and at that time was when I felt and said, it's not possible. You cannot live with the ones that are getting older. You can live with the ones that are coming from scratch, and they are going to bring new things. They are going to invest in things that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And no one was there. So it's a great town to live. It's really calm, but it's too calm now.
How was it?
So-
How are you able to sell your company in such a horrible climate? Because at that time you're watching things closing down. You have a franchise. How were you able to get someone
I
to
didn't
buy?
have the franchise over that. At that time, I decided I didn't need them. Some 3 to 4 years after I came and do what I needed to do, most of the job was made by me. So it's not needed from the first. It was not the franchise that was making the difference. So I
Okay.
decided to close that part and go with what we had.
Okay.
The problem over there was that at that time was that an accounting office has always revenue, constant revenue.
Yeah.
So that is a good part of the job. So it was not. I didn't want to sell it to anyone that wasn't a good person to keep with the clients that I always like to have good relationships with the clients, but it was not so complex to sell it, I think.
Okay. When did you decide to start the business? The product, I'm sorry, the product that you have right now, and then we're going to discuss about that.
Oh, that is another thing. At that time, because I sold the device, the business side, I decided, oh, now I have money, and not so much money, but I have money, I have time, so money buys time, and I can decide where I can go. I was more than 40 years old at that time, so I decided 42, and I was thinking to myself, and my wife told me, it's not good to go abroad to another country. It's difficult. You are a Portuguese. It's not easy for you to create something. Even being an entrepreneur and seeing great examples like US and things like that. But it's always difficult when you age. So what I knew was the Portuguese laws. I have a lot of experience in management and several areas. So I decided, okay, we can create a new accounting officer, at least for my wife, and we begin with that. But let's fix into the place where we are going to live. And we decided to come to a town in the north of Portugal, which is called Braga. It's a really nice town. It has more people. Now we have 200,000 population. It's a really nice city, and it's the third city in Portugal. It doesn't have too much traffic. It has university, a great university also. It's half an hour more or less from the airport. It's half an hour more or less from Porto, the second biggest city in Portugal.
Okay,
and
so
I decided to come here. Yeah.
So all right, so you just gave me the long version of why you live there, but focus on the business. How did the business come up?
The business came up because when I was at Guarda, I was an investor, and I was the president of the Club of Business Angels in Guarda, in my hometown. And the club was only expected to explain what is investment in small businesses that are usually new startups. Tried to show that from the technology point of view and from the global vision of the world, you have a lot of businesses. So this could be something that could shake the town that was falling and falling. And it was when I met a lot of business angels from all over the country. The clubs were there were 14 clubs, business angel clubs in Portugal, and we met sometimes, and I met persons, and it was really nice to meet those guys. And one of the times I was selling the other one of my investments that was a small solar power central, and I was trying to sell it to one of those guys, and I told him, well, I sold my business in Guarda. If you need anything else, just tell me. The week after, he called me and said, well, I need you. We have 3 investments here in Porto that are not going so well, and they are related with university. They have technologies that are medical devices, and I think you have the profile to manage those. Mm-hmm. And I went to meet him, and well, we began. This was in 2017, and that was the time when I saw what was the technologies that now I'm trying to bring to market again. And that was the basics. So in 2017, they provided me the companies. I began. There were 3 investments, and at that time I was from the VC part of the business. And afterwards, we managed to buy those companies from the VC. So they are still investors in the companies, and we created spin-offs of the basic company that was Metabrew at that time.
Being a finance, I mean, you were in finance, you're in operations, you're in HR, you definitely know how to work with people. You know the importance of being not only the storyteller, but to know all essence of your business. Most business entrepreneurs are working so hard to work with angel funders or VCs, and now you're actually in that world as well. So how was it for you to be a business owner, but also being a VC? I mean, was that a benefit, or was there a learning curve?
I began by being a business owner. I was on the VC part, so I was the manager of the investments at that time. So at that time, it was a transition. So I came from owning it to being the entrepreneur from one moment almost to the other. Mm-hmm. And I felt that it's really more difficult, at least here in Portugal, because of I'm talking about also medical devices, so it's not so easy to fund it. And it was really tough, and I'm still learning. I have to tell you, it's not so easy to be to have to ask for funding when you are looking to this kind of technologies. Usually, you need to see it in a big country where you have the market. In here, you don't. As a startup, you cannot look at your own country as a market because it's not even enough for you to survive. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit difficult, and the technologies at that time were in the beginning. So now it was tough, and we could manage with small amounts. It was, well, looking back, I have to tell you that it's really amazing what we did with so few resources. really. But we did it until now. Let's hope we can still do it in the near future.
So let's jump into the product only. So what is the product? Why did you, where did it come from? And what is the purpose of it? So let's just focus on the product.
Well, let me introduce you the second part that it was related with the full technologies. That we have 2 technologies now to show you. And one of the main reasons is that COVID came also. And I saw that your podcast is also to help to understand what are the problems regarding COVID. And
well, I don't want to, but let's just pause because we're jumping too much. All right. So,
Okay.
what is the product? So, like, I mean, like, what is the product, and why was it created?
Well, the products that I'm going to show you both came from the needs that were identified at the Faculty of Nutrition of the University of Porto.
Mm-hmm.
And they were explained to the Faculty of Engineering that created the devices itself. Okay. The first one is a smart screen focal.
So you did not. So just to understand, you did not create the product, but you worked. Okay, so that's the thing where. So who created the product that you are now?
CTO.
The what?
The CTO.
Okay, your CTO. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
That was really interesting. The products were already in the company that I came to manage. So there were three technologies over there. And when I was beginning to work with the company, I was looking at what was, I was making the due diligence regarding each one of the technologies. Mm-hmm. So I met Tiago at the university, at the faculty of, at the laboratory at the Faculty of Engineering. Okay. And he is a really resourceful guy in terms of technology. He's a mechanical engineer with a lot of experience in integration of electronics and software and mechanics and all of that. And he was developing those technologies since 2008 when he went to the university, and he was at the laboratory working with them. So he was always filled with the hands-on the technology. So I met him, and I saw that he had the knowledge. There was a lot of knowledge. One of the technologies has 24 academic publications. The other one has 12. They won a lot of prizes, even at the university. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him and saw, well, and at that time was something. So I went to the company in May of 2017. Yep. In August, I was seeing Tiago telling me, I'm going out of the university. I cannot keep here because I make a lot of technology and they are always putting it into the furnitures. They are not using it. So I'm going out. And he told me that after he decided, he told everyone at the university, I'm going out. And he had two kids, twins. And he had two kids, and I was saying, well, he's really mad about this. But I told him, wait, we are going to see what we are going to do with them.
So basically, so that's one of the things that happens in most countries, especially in the United States as well, where when an entrepreneur creates something, the university owns it, and the university does whatever they want with it. And if someone is going to use it outside of it, if the founder, the creator, or the innovator takes it outside of it, the universities usually say, like, we'll let you take it out, but we still own parts of it. How is it done in Portugal?
Well, in this case, it was negotiated. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you that it's a good negotiation. I think it's good for both parties. Okay. We negotiated with them a royalty basis, so we have to pay them. It's not a huge royalty. Yep. They own the patent, but we have an exclusive agreement in commercial areas. So the patents on both technologies are granted in US for full. Mm-hmm. And in several countries in Europe, not all of the countries because it wasn't needed, but. Both of the technologies have patents in US and in Europe. Okay. And I think it's fair to provide them also some reimbursement from the investment they made, because this took years inside of the all of the validation they did with the technology. So they tested it as a prototype. They tested it. So what we did was, based on all that knowledge, even having Tiago, it was a plus. So Tiago, he was the guy that knew it from the scratch. And so what we did was really pushing those prototypes that were really, really interesting and creating a new device based on that. So,
okay. And do you have the device in front of you?
Yeah, I have all of the technology. So this is the first one. I shown you one of them similar to this one when I went to the first time in Boston, and they were saying, "Oh, this is the iPhone of the skin fold calipers." Yeah, it is.
You showed me, but remember, people that are watching you right now have no idea what it is.
Yeah, it's a smart skin fold caliper. This is used to make the assessment of body composition, essentially body fat. So this is technology that opens more than the traditional ones. The technology from basis is used for more than 50 years, and it's much more accurate than the bioimpedance scales, for example. Because bioimpedance scales, they use water, they use electricity that goes through your body, and based on the resistance and reactance of the electricity through your body, they calculate the terms of body fat, lean mass, and bone. And so the equations exist for more than 50 years to calculate also those parameters from the skin folds. So usually you use it in skin folds. There are several places in which you need to apply the device in a specific manner. And afterwards you need to calculate by hand or with the Excel file, calculate the body fat percentage and all of that. But it's really accurate. The big difference about our technology is that it's a connected device, so you don't need to see a dial in any place. It connects directly to the iOS and Android app.
Yep.
And it's an electronic device that captures 100 measurements per second of the thickness of the skin fold. So it's the first one that can measure the compressibility of the tissue. So one of the things that we know is that body fat is way different than lean mass when you compress it, because lean mass is more compressible, and and muscle, it's not so compressible. And we know that it's related with the hydration level, for example. And what we capture is this information directly into the app, and we can try to see what it relates afterwards. So we are now trying to capture as most information data as we can to have more accurate assessments in other conditions, not only body fat.
Who needs this though? Because if I go to my physical, the yearly physical, they're checking everything. They're checking my BMI. Sometimes they look now, like where I was in shape 1 year, all of a sudden next year you're obese. I mean, so the numbers are always changing. No one ever knows. People are eating. People think they're healthy. Doctors say that they're not healthy because they're reading things. They're no longer just looking at you to see if you're okay. They're reading things and they're checking BMIs and they're using these new technologies. So who needs this product? Why is it needed? And how should it be used to benefit the end user?
Yeah, the thing is, who usually needs this are the dietitians. Dietitians, nutritionists, they usually do this. Also PT, personal trainers, they usually do this. And we see now a field that can use this also for the assessment of sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass, usually for the elderly.
Yep.
And the technology is really interesting, and I'm glad that you mentioned that BMI. BMI, for example, is just a formula that relates your height and weight, and it's just that. The big thing about this is that it doesn't show you the reality. Yeah. For example, body fat is really much lighter than it is the muscle mass. So you may be looking at two persons with the same height. One of them is going to show you, because muscle mass is much denser, that it's going to show you that in the when they are going to weight it, it's going to show you a higher number of BMI, and the other one can be obese. And the numbers are completely wrong. And that's the thing, because there are several research shows that it's the body fat that really gives you problems. And you need to understand where it is located. So with our technology, you can see it in different spots of your body. And it's worse when you have it inside, when it's visceral, when you have it inside of your skin, not outside. So not outside, not in the part of your skin. So it's not embedded. It's inside your surrounding your internal organs. So what I'm saying is that BMI, it's not a good concept, and you cannot make the assessment, for example, in pregnant women. You cannot apply the bioimpedance scale, for example, that usually they are wrong, but they are better than having nothing. And the pregnant women, for example, at least here in Portugal, they go for the BMI pre-conception, and afterwards they just see the increase in weight from consultancy from one to the other. And this is nothing that can be used, because as I was saying, bioimpedance scales, they cannot measure pregnant women because they have liquids. They have two persons, not one. Every one of them are different. Everyone is different. So many people have a lot of liquid retention. So it's difficult to make this assessment with the bioimpedance scales. So you have a lot of diabetes in pregnant women. You have a lot of preeclampsia. You have a lot of problems that are related to the body composition, and you cannot help any those kind of problems. And you should. So you should know about it. But for example, in sports, they use much more the skin fold calipers when you try to see the real numbers than the bioimpedance, because bioimpedance scales, because it's not so correct. And body composition in sports, it's really amazing, because we went to Qatar 2 years ago, and they have the new they are going to the World Cup, and they are training it, and they have a lot of investment in that area, and it's amazing what you can see with the body composition, and the other places where I was seeing the professionals, in which if you have too much body fat, you have weight when you are playing, so you are not competitive. And that's one of the reasons why Ronaldo, the Portuguese football player, the best one in the world, I have to say, he's really amazing, because with his age, he's really competitive, because when you compare his body composition with the other players like him, he has 2% of 7% of body fat percentage, when the usual players have 9 to 10% of body fat percentage. This is at least 2 kilos that he has less than the other guys, and playing 90 minutes at the level he plays, jumping the level he jumps, it's obviously also related to this, because he really is a professional and looks at this at this precision. So
that's just like if you're looking at Tom Brady. So Tom Brady from used to play for the New England Patriots, now plays in Florida. And he's the oldest football player, American football player. And it's the same thing. And he talks about, it's all about what your body produces at a certain age that you give out.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons. So you if you measure it, it's one of the things that if you measure it, you can manage it. And what we are,
I love how you just said that. I love how you just said that. If you measure it, you can manage it. I think that people don't know, because there's so much information that is going out, and people are just confused. Every day, wine is good for you, wine is not good for you. Coffee is good for you, coffee is not good for you. No one knows, because there's so much information. So people are always doing it wrong. And the people that have they have the money, they have the experts around them all the time, the athletes, they get the right information and they can manage it a lot more. But the average person would like to do that, but the average person can't afford the same experts to tell them what to do. And you would assume that your doctor would tell you what's best for you. And sometimes you have to be your best advocate.
Yeah, but our technology simplifies a lot the measurement with those kind of tools, because to be accurate, bioimpedance scale, it has to be expensive. It's not possible to have it a low-cost version. So what I'm saying is,
I'm so sorry. I just because I want to use the time, because I have so many questions for you. So I just want to use the time very well. So the product is for PT, for dietitians. Is it for anyone? Would anyone be able to have access to this, or is it only for, I mean, the athletes and the elite people to gain access to your technology? Who's using it the most, and who will benefit from it?
The professionals. You need to have a professional making the assessment.
Okay.
It's needed. It needs to be someone that knows how to pick the skin fold, how to measure it. You need to understand that. But in the end, it is much simpler than the traditional ones, because you have the workflow inside of embedded in the app. So you just need to follow the protocol, and it's much easier. And afterwards, we have the cloud platform in which you upload the information, and afterwards you can screen the evolution through time. And our basis comes from nutrition. So all of the developments that we made are mostly related to nutrition and the information that we can grab from this. And so what I'm saying is, it's much simpler to use our technology than the traditional ones. And it's much simpler because you have it all embedded in the workflow of the app. So, and you can see the information in the future and compare it with the trainings, and you can see what was the benefit in terms of nutrition.
Yep.
And we are going to open that part in the future, but it's all related with the data system that we created in order to compare data from one time to the other, and the evolution.
How hard was it for you as a business owner to switch to learn about medical? Because you went from a business, and you're still running a business, but now you have to learn about a whole new industry. I asked that because there are a lot of people that want to own their own business, but they don't want to start from scratch. They don't want to create something. And so a lot of individuals that have had businesses, they go to the big universities here, they find the students that want to own a business, and they sell it to them. So they get acquired. What was the learning curve for you from going from straight business, finance, HR, to now medical? I mean, if you're in the medical field, and you're having to verbalize it, where even when you start talking about it, I could see your excitement in how you were talking about it. How did you get your brain to switch over from, I'm doing straight business and I'm a strategist, but now you're a medical, I mean, you're in the medical field where it's a whole different world on top of the business?
Well, it's always a business in the end. So you need to understand what are the basics of the business. So you need to see that you need to sell it, you need to have a market, you need to create your value proposition. You need to be differentiated when you are talking about your competitors. So it's still business. The big difference is that when I came to this field, I wasn't seeing so many regulatory paths, so complex. And now in Europe, they even increase the difficulties. So it's really much harder now in Europe than in US in some parts. I'm just simplifying it. For us, it's much harder in one of the technologies than in US. And well, it's the big difference about this is that the costs are higher when we are talking about developing medical devices or developing hardware and technology. We are talking of higher costs. That's natural. And the big issue is always the funding, I think. Because I have the luck to be well supported by the university and by the CTO, who was always embedded in all this process, and he's really amazing. He knows how to create and why the engineering has to be so concrete, and this almost turned all the things simpler, because he knows that he needs to be precise, and he's always working on one.
But I also think that your mother, being a teacher, has taught you to listen and to ask the right questions. Because again, you are, the second you start talking about the product, the energy, I mean, like, it's just like you're talking, you're like when you're younger, your towns, everything you're talking, even the businesses that you were in that didn't do well. But the second you start talking about this, the energy that you started putting out was just like, I could see your energy changing. And for me, I would be overwhelmed. I mean, I love learning. I mean, I'm very lucky where I get to talk to all of you guys. I'm learning about everything that people do. And then once I learn what you do, I get to do what I do, which is marketing. But for you to sit there and change, I mean, the business is a business, but for you to be able to like verbalize and make it so believable about this product and the need to a person that's in the field of medicine is what's really engaging for me. Because how did you even get to the point where people were listening to you, they were believing you, and then they wanted to engage with you, and they were willing to write a big check to you?
Well, I think it's natural. You need to know about what you're doing. And I truly think that creating something at this level is really one of the most exciting things that you can do. It's not possible to say it anywhere, any other way. It's really, and if you look at what we created now, and maybe this is one of my biggest excitement is related to that. We created so much in such a small time, and because we created this one, we created a low-cost version, and we created a hand grip that makes the assessment of frailty to support the elderly that were in the beginning of the pandemic were the most vulnerable, and you needed to understand who were they. And imagine all of this at the same time, seeing the crisis coming, and with this kind of device, and you say, well, sports, it's closed, nutritionists cannot, the dietitian cannot make their own consultation and not even meet people to make the assessment.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was looking at the beginning of the process, we were looking at this and saying, well, we have, this is the go-to-market strategy, and now, no,
it's gone. It's gone.
It's gone. So what happened was we just pivoted into the new technology that was supported previously to make the assessment of frailty, to understand the physical vulnerability of the elderly.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it was a perfect fit for what came with COVID. So since then, it was a new step, a new evolution, and always increasing and creating from the ground we already created. Usually in US, you have something that it's really amazing and that I truly love, which is we don't lose always, we always learn. So that is, in our sense, if we lost Lipowise at that time, it could be perfectly normal, because there was no way to sell it, and even the product was not completely mature to go to market. So at that time it was possible to close. But the big thing is, with our resilience and all the way to turn things on differently, we now have more created on the basics of Lipowise. So we use the same ground, the same roots to even increase more the solution. And I truly think that we create something that it's wonderful now, and
So
it has a big potential.
So is it the same? It's the same product, but now it's just being, it's not. So what does the new one look like?
Yes, the big difference we created in the between, because of the learnings we had from Boston at that time, we always tried to fight to create a new low-cost version, which is this one, Lipowise.
So wait,
but that one.
Can you put both of them? Hold both of them.
Yeah, I can show you both of them. So this is the big difference. So
okay,
you have it. One is polymerics. It's plastic. Only opens 5 centimeters. This one opens 10, so 11. In the end, you have the tips moving, so you can keep the parallelism. The technology of the coil is different. It's much more precise and patented. This one, it's not so.
So the
so
silver
well.
one, it's designed for dietitians, for PT, for athletes, for no, I shouldn't say athlete, but for at the end of the day to see, it's part of the regimen of a physical. Where the black one, how does the black one work for the elderly?
Well, it works the same way, because usually the elderly had small skin folds, you know.
Yes, yes.
They usually, so you only need 5 centimeters, so it's possible. They both work the same way.
Okay.
Both technologies work the same way, but this is more precise. It's look and feel completely different.
Okay.
But the big approach is the software part. But with this technology, we can make the assessment of body composition. And the other technology that we have in the portfolio is this one, which is Gripwise,
okay.
This one. And this one is it's a digital hand grip that can make the assessment of strength from the hand. So it's lighter, it's easier to use. It has it goes to 280 kilos.
Okay.
In capacity, and it does much more than the traditional ones, because it
so it's so funny
accesses...
it's so funny that you have that. So I have this that I use.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it basically is it pretty much the same, but is it for elderly to check their strength?
Yeah, but it's digital. I can show you here, but it's digital. It goes. So as you can see here, it's going to be the first measurement. I'm going to put the device here, and I'm going to make the assessment, and it's going to
tell you.
It connects directly to the same app as we have in Lipowise, and we have the cloud platform.
Okay.
The device itself can make a lot of different things than the traditional ones. The big thing about this is that you can take some parts and adapt it, because it makes the assessment of strength in compression, but also in traction. So it opens. So our vision is to translate this into personalized devices that can make the assessment of strength in compression and in traction. And so imagine doing this at the legs, for example. We are developing different accessories for measuring the abductors and the adductors.
Yep.
And it also has embedded accelerometer and gyroscope. So you can do it, see it working inside of a screen.
Yep.
You can make physical exercises being quantified at the same time as you play. So
are you so if I'm in, so now I'm a elderly person, I'm using all this. Once I have all the data, what is the purpose for them? So if you're an athlete, you're trying to improve. If you are with a dietitian, you're trying to get in shape so that way you live a longer life. But now these individuals are at the end of their lives. What is the goal for them? And what did COVID do to you to create this for them?
Well, the frailty is a condition that is related to the loss of physical capabilities, the increase of inflammation, the decrease of physical function. You begin losing your autonomy, and in the end, you increase a lot the possibilities of having chronic diseases.
Yep.
And in the end, usually it's the death. Yep. But the thing is, as well as sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass, after 30, we begin losing muscle mass. And the thing about frailty is that, at least I usually say this, when we get to retirement at 65, we don't even know that frailty is something that can be mitigated or can be stopped, even reversed. And then the thing is, no one tells you, but the truth is that frailty is considered by the World Health Organization as the cornerstone of geriatric medicine, because it's easy to assess and it's easy to prescribe to mitigate evolution. And it only has two ways to do it. Firstly, you go for nutrition, in which you are going to provide the right assessment in terms of nutrition. You can go for the protein support, supplementary support, and you can go afterwards also to the physical activity.
Mhm.
So with with the combination of those two factors, you can decrease a lot the possibility of having frailty and losing your autonomy or even quality of life. And in the end, it's going to reduce costs. So it's really one of the things that we are trying to see. And our vision is, so it's not the hand grip that makes the difference, it's the way that you can make a simplified process to make the assessment. So we translated what is the academic development regarding it. We translated it to the app, and we can collect information about body composition, about the physical condition of the muscle, and in the end, you are going to have your point of start, and afterwards you can prescribe nutrition and physical activity to keep quality of life.
Yeah.
And Gripwise now, it's in the basics for the gamified process. So what in the future, we are going to use the device itself with a different configuration to make games in a quantified way. So you can make the assessment of different muscular groups, legs, hands, having it integrated with different technologies like wristbands and things like that. So you can motivate people to keep their own physical activity and monitor that kind of physical activity in order to have them motivated to keep mitigating the evolution of frailty and even stopping it for not for always, but trying to stop its evolution and keeping quality of life. That's our vision. So
no, I was gonna say, this is it's needed, and I think it's really good because people, as we know, people are living longer, and and because people are living longer, people want to find a way of not only living longer, but the quality of life. Quantity is good, but if I don't have the quality, the quantity isn't even worth it. So with new technology, and technology plays into so much that we're doing, but with more technologies that are able to educate individuals to live a better quality of life, it'll be a game changer. I'm going to switch the conversations a little bit because I know we're running out of time. So I'm going to switch a little conversation. March 2020, the pandemic happens. It is now 2 years, and we've surpassed 2 years of dealing with this pandemic. You mentioned that clearly you lost a lot of business because people weren't playing sports, people weren't going out, people couldn't even be touched, doctors weren't seeing you. If it wasn't via Zoom, people weren't even seeing their doctors. And so you added a whole new element of your business. Thank goodness, because everyone knows you never want to waste a good epidemic. You never want to waste a good pandemic, or whatever the saying is, where whenever there's an opportunity, you want a crisis, exactly, crisis. You never want to waste a good crisis. So with all that was going on and you developing new things, what did it do to you personally, and what did it do to your team? How were you able to still stay positive and be aware? Because it was one company at the beginning of the pandemic, and it is now 2 companies at the end of the pandemic. How did you emotionally deal with that as a team?
I have to tell you that we didn't have too much time to even think about that.
That's good. All right, tell me more.
In March 2020, we were selected for an accelerator in Qatar. I was telling you previously. So the Qatar Sports Tech is one of the sports accelerators that is more focused in startups related to sports. And so when I came back in the 15th of March to Portugal, I was trying to see, well, I have this problem now. I'm going to keep on speaking with the guys at the accelerator. They are now our investors, and try to see how it works. Previously, we had an investor, which is Luís Lopes Pereira. He's the country manager of Medtronic in Portugal. He made the first investment in the team, not in the technology. It's not related even closely to Medtronic. So he invested in Lipowise because he found that the company was, as he says, well based in management and engineering. So it had the good mix for growing. And he was our only individual investor. And at the time, I spoke with them because Gripwise, it's also the anemometer to make the assessment of muscle strength. So it was also important for sports. But because of the pandemic, at the beginning, they were receptive to the investment. So I was proposing to make a new investment to develop this technology, and we could go to market afterwards in a more mature situation. And they told us, okay, at the beginning it was going okay, but afterwards they told us, well, guys, it's being impossible because everyone is asking us the same. Everyone is having the problem. So they sent me an email and said, well, we invested in Lipowise. I'm sorry, guys, but you do what you need to do and try to survive. Well, more or less like this. So at that time, I was telling them, well, we have this technology. And we thought, well, we have this technology. We are going to try to use it in to support this pandemic. So try to figure out which are the persons that need to be supported and most vulnerable. So we began by that, presenting it to some elderly care homes here. Mm-hmm. And we made our first MVP sales. It was amazing. Whoa, MVP sales. And we presented it in a PowerPoint. We didn't have even a prototype. We had a small thing, yellow, just to show what would be. And so we won a prize of those first 6 cells that we made, and we created this technology, this small thing. It's a 3D printed device with only one button, but this was the basics to create the workflow for the assessment of frailty. Mm-hmm. So in 3 to 4 months, we had an MVP that we sold. We sold some devices also for making the assessment, Lipowise to begin making the assessment of sarcopenia. So we had the first drivers to the technology, and because we presented ourselves to a grant for innovative technology, we won a grant of more than 300,000 euros of support investment, so non-dilutive investment. So after that, I had to look for business angels that could support the other part that was not embedded in the grant. And we had the support from investors. So in 1 year, more or less, we had more than 700,000 euros of investment to create this full solution. And now we have something to show. We are now having 2 class 1 medical devices. We have our GDPR compliant cloud platform, and we are certified as medical devices producers here in Portugal with ISO 13485 in 1 year and something, since April 2020 until now.
But imagine, so how long?
Almost 2 years.
For the first product, how long did it take you to get all that information for the first product compared to the second product?
Well, the first product took us from 2017, August 2017, when we decided we go with this one. Yeah. And we met in January 2018. Mm-hmm. So it took us until 2020. So when we had the first product, Lipowise the Pro, this version, we had it in 2020, but we didn't have the final version of the app. So all of this took so long, and it was so difficult to find money that was really complex. And the second one, so we created the company in April 2020. Yeah. And now we are going to do 2 years.
Isn't it shocking? That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I mean, it is so, this is why, again, you never want to give up a good crisis, because people see the opportunity clearer, and also everybody was home. Everybody was home, so it was just like being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, but there is one big thing. It's that it's only possible because of the lessons learned previously. 100%. That is something that we had the chance, we have the opportunity not to let go the technology. But the thing is, if we didn't do the full process previously, we wouldn't meet the suppliers, we wouldn't have the software backs, the knowledge about the software. We didn't have a lot of things that are mostly sometimes so small, but in the end make a lot of difference. And that's why we could do this in such a small amount of time. Now, last year, we won a prize from EIT Health to bring us to the US market. So we have already presented a poster in your frailty symposium congress, that it's going to be one of them this year is going to have the second poster from our side. So we had a clinical validation in the north of France, because we presented our technology in France also, and we won the innovation pitch in the Aging Fit, which is a fair for silver aging. And a physician from the University Hospital of Caen, in the north of France, they wanted to have the device, and they made a 348 patients clinical trial in cancer patients. And they are going to publish it in the next month there in Boston. And last year we also presented our first poster over there. So this is really in a speed that it's not going to stop so soon, I think.
So how was it? So now think about when you were in your 40s, the world imploded. So the world was in a bad shape in 2008. You left, you sold the businesses, you had 2 kids. I mean, imagine you then and imagine you now. What lessons have you taken? So if someone is looking at you now, saw how you were then when you have 2 kids, you're older, what are you doing leaving the job? And then now, what advice would you give to someone that's watching you right now in regards of they're thinking about starting a business, or they're thinking about leaving a business that they started, but they don't know what to do, and they have a family and they're older? Look, what advice did you get that you could share right now?
Well, my advice is believe. Believe. You always need to believe. You need to make your own strategy and put it into place and see the next milestones that you need to achieve. You are going always to have roadblocks. It's going to be tough, but you need to believe. So that's the big thing. If you don't believe, you are not going anywhere.
How are you not afraid? And how did you keep your wife believing in you? Because when 2 little, not just kids, you had 2 little ones. And so how did you navigate that?
Me and Tiago, the CTO, also has 2 kids, and it was in the same situation. So both of us know what we are talking about. How did I do it with my wife? Well, I think I have it. It's more easier for me because she already had the previous experience in 2001. 2001, 2002. It was so, and she was also my partner. So this is something that she's used to. I know that many people, at least here in Portugal or in Europe, I think many people here usually have to go in the firm steps, working for the state or working for whatever. Well, it's not in my blood. I think I cannot I cannot change myself. It's really something that I usually, if I go and I think it's important, I'm going till the end. And well, I think it's one of the characteristics of the Portuguese is that we are really resilient. And that's why we went all over the world and we have people all over the world. And I think I have a little bit of that also.
I think that I'll even add, it's the Portuguese, but I hear your grandmother all the way. I mean, everything about what you've experienced and what you've gone through, because 2001, 2002, then 2008, and then the pandemic, and the differences in each time, and every single time you kept on learning, and your grandmother going and give me back my brother. I'm like, I'm going to take my brother back. I'm going to sit there and figure this out. I'm going to sit there and make sure that we succeed. And I think that came from her as well as your family. But I mean, everything that you're saying is the resiliency of making sure that this succeeds. And not just this succeeds, but I succeed. I succeed for my family. And how old are your kids right now?
Well, the older one is going to have 16 next month or in 2 months, and the younger one 12. So
and they've been
it's-
watching you and your wife all the way through. So if I was going to make a bet, I would make a bet that one of them is going to be an entrepreneur as well.
I hope so.
Isn't that wonderful? I love that. I love that.
I would love that, but I have to tell you, I'm not going to influence them, because try to influence them. I'm going to do it anyway, but it's really tough, and you need to have it. You need to have the strength to support all of the things that usually you need to, all those roadblocks and all the ups and downs and all of that. So you need to believe, you need to have your mindset quite defined to do that. I would love them to do it, but I know it's difficult. So, well, let's see how
we
they
will
do.
see. We will see. All right. So this is my last question. This is the way that and I love this because you've given so much lessons and so many tips without you even realizing. I didn't even have to ask certain questions. You just said certain things. I'm like, there's one. So I love that throughout the entire process of the years, and you hit 3 major economical downfalls it's just insane how you experienced the 3. Because I was working in 2001, I was working in the industry, so I wasn't worried because I was working for someone else, but I was clearly there for 2008, 2009, and I'm obviously here right now. So I always say that this is not the last question. This is not the last conversation. I will always find ways to bring you back, because I want to support entrepreneurs, small businesses, entrepreneurs, innovators as much as I possibly can. And this is a great way, so that way people can get to understand who you are, where you came from, and then we get to know your product. Because as you showed, I could have 1 product, I could have 2 products, I could have many products, or I could just shut it down and sell the product. So the evolution of an entrepreneur innovator is always going, but I will always come to you because you're the expert. But for today, I will end the conversation, and I will end it always the same way, where if you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask? I think that too many times we as entrepreneurs don't ask for ourselves, we ask only for our businesses. So I'm giving you the opportunity to answer for both.
Yeah, nice. Well, I previously mentioned briefly that we are going to be supported to get to the US market this year. And we are going to with the innovation agency. So they have an accelerator based in Austin, but it's going to be all around the country. So I'm going to see you this year, I hope, in person there in the US. So one of the things that I would like to would be to have a good introduction to the US market. So try to see how we can fit. And sincerely, I truly hope that our vision can be really multiplied with a lot of people, and with the act. I just briefly met some of the persons that I've seen working, and they put a lot of effort and know about the things, and I truly love that kind of empowerment. So like you are overwhelming when I meet you. You are always on the spot trying to help. And that's it. For me, I would kindly ask to have some support over there and see how can we fit over there and understand how our technologies can move forward.
All right, wait,
people.
Clarification. So if you want to meet someone, who specifically do you want to meet in the US market? Just so that way people are very clear who you want to meet.
Well, I'm trying to find the persons that are related to the frailty assessment. I think we can do a lot to help people to get older better. That's the big issue. And I'm going to try to find some key opinion leaders next year. We are already making this kind of assessment, trying to understand who are those persons. And
so I have one suggestion. So I took care of my grandmother for 21 years and she died at 95. And so I come from very good genes. She died at 95 naturally. And the Mass General Hospital, geriatrics, and I mean the geriatrics departments at most hospitals are by far a place you would want to engage with. I mean, so you can go to the elderly homes, but they all have to go to the doctor. So geriatrics in any major hospital is #1 place where I would suggest. They help me take care of her. They help me be educated to understand how, because I mean, I'm looking at my grandmother, but they really help me understand what's happening to her body as she's aging and what she can do and what she can't do. Because you're just thinking, come on, grandma, let's go. And then when she can't do it, it's just understanding what's physically happening to the body. And so I think that would be a great group of people. Anyone that is in geriatrics is the ideal conversation that you want to have.
Perfect. So yes, I'm going to look forward for that. I'm going to do that. Obviously.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're coming to the States and if you're doing a tour around the United States and go to the best hospitals, start making those engaging with them now. I think that would be good, because I mean the geriatrics departments are they're big. I mean, as I mentioned, we're living longer, so these departments are very big, and to have that doctor that specializes in the aging, that's the person you want to really engage with the most. Yeah.
And another thing that if I can, one of the things that I think is people don't understand that this is a problem that they can mitigate. And I know there is a huge association in US that links retired people or something like that. I've heard it sometime and I don't remember. And this could be important because elderly people need to understand that this condition can be mitigated, and they can keep quality of life during the elderly when they are getting old. And it's really important to keep that. Well, it would be really interesting to have this kind of information.
Another organization that you should definitely learn more about is AARP.
AARP.
So it's the big joke, but it's not. It's a joke and it's not a joke. So at the age of 50, you get a letter from AARP. Oh. And so people are like, and so everyone knows like AARP is like, they give you discounts, they teach you about aging and all these things. So everyone's gonna hit the number. It is, some people take it as an, yay, I got my AARP card. Some people are horrified. They're like, oh, I got my AARP card.
So soon.
Because I don't feel like I'm old. So I think that's another organization that you definitely want to do. Okay, so wait, what's your personal ask?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, you can't. No. There's personal and there's professional. You just said you're professional. What's your personal ask?
You are talking someone that can help me with that in those.
It's not the same thing. You just said business. I want personal. You can't have the same thing. You just said everything about business. Let's talk about you. What do you want for your personal ask?
Well, I would like to provide my kids, for example, a good learning and the same kind of experience of open eyes that I had. It would be really amazing. Try to feel the things that and all the luck that I've been having. So contacting people like you and from several countries that I have already experienced, and so many people that it's really interesting. So that's what I would like to have them. This is my ask. It's not so easy because I'm not going to live their lives, but
but that's a good that's a good one, because I think that everyone's moving so fast, and sometimes you forget that your kids are watching you. I mean, they're watching you, and sometimes you're asking them to do things, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I mean, the kids are always watching you. And I think that's one of the things where, just for you to say that out loud, that means that every single thing that you're doing, it's giving them the opportunity that anything is possible.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
My daughter is always telling me, you are so lucky. You are going to the US now. I want to go study there. She's only 12. Yeah.
And imagine you at 12 years old, when you were in that small town. Did you even think that everything that you're experiencing right now was even a possibility?
Not even looking for that. No, not even close.
Could you imagine? No. I think that's one of the moments, the moments that I love when you're younger. The younger you doesn't even think it's a possibility, but your 12-year-old, she thinks it's a possibility. She knows it's a possibility because you've provided that for her. So bravo, Dad. Bravo.
Thank you.
Ricardo, I mean, it was so nice talking. It was nice catching up with you. It was nice hearing what you're doing. I'm so proud of you that you created so many more products. I mean, you had one product And now you have
At the
so
beginning.
many, that's crazy. It's absolutely
yeah.
crazy. I love it so much for you. I'm so proud of you. And
Thank
just
you.
how it's, the more you do it, the easier it is. So now you're not just an entrepreneur, but you are a serial entrepreneur.
Yes, maybe
That's
so.
your title. Like, you can put
Thank
that in
you.
your LinkedIn. I am a serial entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. So
Well, I
wait,
have to tell you
yeah.
that this, and you also, you are supporting so many guys like me that it's really something, yeah. And it's really.
I'm supporting
important
you
to-
because I'm on you. I'm tough with you guys. That's why I'm supporting you.
I know that. I know that, and it's a proof. I felt it, but it's always good. Even when I was in the US, when you were here in Portugal, it's true. You are tough, but on the spot always. Thank you very much.
Again, I mean, I love being wowed, and I love it that you guys, no matter what I do, no matter what I say to you guys, I love that you guys wow me, and that's what I'm so privileged to be able to see you guys, to work with you, to challenge you. Oh, and I mean, and the world changes, the industry changes, the world changes because you exist. So thank you, thank you, and thank you. And wait, last thing, when will you be in the States?
Well, I'm going to be in May, in July, in September, in October, and in November, 3 weeks.
Wow. All right. So I will not be here in May, because in May I'll be working. So April, May, I'm working in Guadeloupe, Caribbean.
Okay.
So,
okay, nice.
I know it's not a bad place to work. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
So I'll be there, but I'll be back. And so I'll see you.
Well, I'm not always being. I'm only. It's supposed to be only in Boston, only in November. But I'll be in. I think in May I'm going to be in California.
Okay.
And well, it's going to have a lot of interactions. I'm going to,
touch base with me. Touch base with me so that way I know exactly when you're here, and then we will sit there and we'll sit back and just enjoy a glass of wine and a dinner.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, beautiful, my friend.
Pleasure.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful summer months. Have a wonderful time just growing and getting more of this product around you. And remember, we'll call it Geriatrics and AARP.
Thank you very much. Really interesting.
I will. I'm always here. I'm here for you all the time. I'm always here.
I know. Thank you very much for that, and for all of the other guys like me that you supported previously also. Thank you very much.
Always. All right, Ricardo, have a wonderful, wonderful evening for you, afternoon for me.
Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to see you.
Bye, my friend.